Good morning. Om Shanti. This morning, I'll just share with you some of the teachings connected to the practice that we do. And as you know, when we talk about the divine intellect, we do our practice based on understanding the teachings, and then experimenting with the understanding, and then experiencing the meaning behind the understanding, and then inculcating the principles as our dharma. The Hindi word is dharma, which is translated as religion, but it's not religion per se, it's principles of life. And then I embody it. I bring it out. I give it expression. And these teachings are actually, as Sister Jayanti shared with us yesterday, based on revelations that the founder had, Brahma Baba, around the year of 1936. Many came through 1936, but he actually was getting, there was premonition that something was going on in his life. And one of the profound revelations that he got was what today is called Raj Yoga. We practice something that's called Raj Yoga. And Raj means the highest. It means royal. And yoga means a connection, a communion. And that's what we practice, Raj Yoga. So today I'll share with you what this practice is. Because the practice is connecting to a source that's considered to be a highest source. And yesterday, when Michael asked about these pictures actually are descriptive of the source. Because one of the visions that Brahma Baba had was of the source being light. And not just light as the sun, the moon, the stars, even though those symbols of Mother Nature are used as the closest symbols to make us understand light. But it's beyond. It's a spiritual light. And the way it was revealed was in two ways. One, God being light, the source being light, the divine being light, but also the souls, the embodied souls in the human form were also light. So the practice of Raj Yoga is actually light, the light of the soul, connecting to the light of God. And it's been remembered as image, that I'm created in the image of the Supreme. But I, the soul, am a soul, and the Supreme Soul is the Supreme. And this was one of the distinctions that became apparent in the revelations, that souls were souls, and there was one soul that remained supreme, and was called the Supreme Soul. So the practice we do is to, first of all, consider ourselves to be souls, which we took up yesterday very briefly. And of course, there's a whole lesson on that. And in considering myself to be a soul, I visualize in the center of my forehead being light, being a point of light, but it's not a point of electrical light. It is not a point of matter light. And so I hear people say energy, and it's fine. But for me, if I say energy, just energy, I'm talking about the energy of matter. But when I say I'm living light, and within the living light is my entire being, it's who I am, then I distinguish myself from all the energetic dynamic that's around me. And I position myself as a being of light, unique in my own right. So I have a unique personality. I have unique patterns within me. I am very unique, but at the same time, I'm relational. I relate to other human beings. I relate to my body that matter has given me on loan, and will one day I have to return it to matter. And so I have a relationship with this body. And my relationship with this body that I call my body really is not mine. I'm a trustee of it. And when it's time to relinquish it, I always say there is a date printed on everyone's body. We come with a date of an expiry date then, that we'll have to give it back. And so when I live in this is part of the teachings, to live in the awareness of being this point of light in this body. And to have a relationship, your first relationship is with your body, and you are a trustee of this body, and you need to take care of the body. And this is why spiritually it said, I'm the idol living in the temple. I am the charioteer in this chariot. I am the driver in the vehicle. But I mustn't abuse it. I mustn't misuse it. I mustn't do the things that I do to it and ignore the consequences of it. Because it is through the body that actions are performed. And it is through action. We use this word awakening a lot, but it is through the body what gets awakened. The realization of who I am, of course, but what gets awakened is my fortune. So spiritually, I come with an awakened fortune, and then my actions become the pen to write my destiny. But it's what's happening in here before the pen hits the paper of action. That's what a spiritual path is all about. And to understand what is happening from the action to being this point of light, that trajectory, is where the connection to the Supreme matters. And so when we started meditating here, the first lesson is, who am I? But then the second lesson is, who do I belong to? As a human being, I know I belong to the human family. I know I belong to my parents. I know I belong to my siblings. I know I belong to my extended family. I may even say I belong to my religion that I was born into. I belong to the country that I was born into. I belong to a culture. All of those are sense of belongings, but that is for the body. But who do I belong to as a soul? And this is where the spiritual journey begins. With this second question, who do I belong to? Raj Yoga is recognizing that and connecting to this bigger belonging. And so when Sister Jayanti said that was an inverted tree, I thought it was a ladder, but she said it was a stylistic tree. We connect to the seed of the tree in Raj Yoga, because we know when we connect to the seed of the tree of souls, we're connecting to the whole family of souls. It's just like when you connect to the seed of a tree, you connect to the whole tree. So the Supreme Being, or the source for us, connects us to the whole. Connecting to the seed means I'm connecting to the whole. And whatever I draw from the seed, I share with the whole. And so it becomes a very interesting dynamic spiritually, in which I'm not just told to disconnect from the costume, the temple, the chariot, and become aware of being a light that gives life to this entire being of the body. But also for that moment in time that you are going to be concentrating to the Supreme Being of light, also move away from other people's bodies, from other people's souls, because you want to serve the whole. But for the soul to be connected to the whole may be a distraction if I go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. But if I want to be connected to the whole, then for that moment in time, just disconnect from all of that and just connect to this one Supreme Being. And we know it's a difficult thing to do, right? Because our relationships pull us back. And so there are a few things I want to share today that I hope would help you in your connecting to the Supreme Light. One of the things about the Supreme Being as the source of light is that that Supreme Being resides in a region of light. And so just as when I'm remembering someone, I remember that someone perhaps in a place. I remember that someone perhaps with experiences I've had with them. It's a similar thing with the Supreme Being. So when we position ourselves here, we don't move, the soul doesn't move from the seat, which is in the center of the forehead, but the soul remembers while sitting there. And in remembering, I am on a journey of remembrance. And so even though we use the word Raj Yoga, the journey is one of remembrance. But along with remembrance, the journey is also one of love. So it is like the two sticks I move with would be love and remembrance. And it's moving me on this journey. So what am I remembering? Or who am I remembering? I'm remembering this Supreme Being that is my parent. The Supreme Being is a parent of the soul. So I'm remembering God, the divine, the Supreme Being in a relationship of mother and father of the soul. And that relationship with this being of light is nurturing me. Now, the thing is about remembering God as the parent of the soul is one of the most important things that the soul needs right now is to be seen. Is to be seen for who I am, what I am, regardless of what other people think of me, or regardless of what I think of myself. So I want to be seen for who I am, with my faults, with my mistakes, with everything. I'm naked. I'm not hiding anything. So the connection to God as light and the soul as light is meeting with God in my soul conscious form, which is referred to as the naked form, but to be seen for who I am. And so there's a freedom that's experienced in that meeting between the soul and the Supreme Soul. Remember, I'm remembering who I am by remembering this is my parent. But there's also the love there. The parent is not going to judge me. And so the freedom that I experience is the freedom from the fear of God. That's the first freedom in Raj Yoga, seeing God as light and seeing myself as light with the balances of love and remembrance. I experience a freedom from that fear that I may carry in relation to my parents, my mother and father. This light of God, as God sees me, I know that because I'm not judged, the love and remembrance opens up a path for me to discover who I am and who I belong to. And through this process of discovery, I then get interested in the teachings, in the wisdom. And so part of understanding God is to know God. And to know God is to love God. And so what am I understanding about God? And one is, not only is God light, but God is also living. I have feelings for God, God has feelings for me. And this is why yesterday when Sister Jayanti was talking about the divine intellect and she left out the piece of the heart, of the love, is that if I understand something without love, I don't experience it. It becomes a theory. It becomes something abstract. So understanding God opens up the heart in the intellect, and the intellect experiences the qualities of God. And I begin to identify with the likeness of my parent, of my mother and father. And the likeness that I have to God is I am love, because my parent is the source of love. I am peace, because my parent is a source of peace. I am truth, because my parent is a source of truth. I am purity. I'm pure, I'm innocent, I'm clean, because my parent is that. I am powerful, because my parent is powerful. And the word power is not what God is. God is strength. So this word Shakti that is used is strength for the soul. So this is the way we practice yoga. And so for us, yoga is a silence that we move into, but it is not an empty silence. It is not a silence in which I become absent from something, or something becomes absent from me, but it's a silence in which there is a presence. And the presence is the presence of God, and the presence is felt when I connect to God. Now, where do I connect to God? Is in a region of light. So I visualize connecting to the Supreme Being, this living light that's supreme in all qualities. And I am rekindling that in myself with this connection. But I visualize this being of light in a realm of light that I call the home. We have heard a lot about the new world, the golden aged world. But in order to reconstruct that golden aged world here on earth, we need a stability of consciousness. Now, we've heard this, that consciousness is always consciousness. Consciousness never changes. It's our awareness that changes. But I have to return to a consciousness that I've forgotten. So it may not change, but I've forgotten it. And so in order to return to it, I return to it in this region of light that I call the home. So I transcend, it's a transcendence that happens in which I'm transcending a world of change, which is this physical world. And moment by moment, there's change because the nature of the physical world is to change. And I transcend to a world of light that is my home. And why it's called the home, the moment I transcend and visualize this region of light, I feel peace. I feel the presence of peace. And that's what the silence brings. My connection to God brings a silence that I feel peaceful in. And that peace grounds me. I ground myself in this region of light, connected to this source of light, and it grounds me in a peace that is powerful. And that is the stability of the light. The stability of the light of the home is the comfort of peace. And that nurtures me. And that makes me feel that I'm being strengthened. It's a strength that I draw from that remembrance of being with God in the home where the soul belongs. And it is not just I, as an individual soul, belong in that realm of light, but all souls belong there, and all souls will return there. All souls have a right to that experience. All souls have a right to that connection. And so before we go into the meditation, which is on the stability of light, which is taking us into that experience of that realm of light where the meeting of the soul with the Supreme Soul takes place, I'd like to just tell you a little method of how this is done. And the method we use for the practice is, the first step is concentration. So I concentrate, being a soul, seated on my seat, which is in the center of the forehead. And then I'm connecting. Yoga is connection, but I'm connecting with love. Without love, I won't be able to connect. And I'm also remembering what I have forgotten. The second is that I'm moving in an inner space. And that inner space is called a very sacred space within, a sweet spot of solitude. So they say within every soul, there's a sacred spot that I have saved only for this return journey. And in this sacred spot, it's a spot in which the connection between the soul and God happens. So it's called the sweet spot of solitude that I return to within silence. And then I move into this unifying principle. It's called the principle of unity. Yoga is to communion. I'm unifying my image to the image of God, and I'm unifying my likeness to the likeness of God. And I'm drawing from God, rekindling what's already inside of me. And if peace is what I'm rekindling in the silence, then I will stay in the experience of that peace. I wouldn't just intellectualize it. I wouldn't just let the intellect look at the meaning of peace, but the intellect connected to peace and God as the source is awakening within me that fortune of peace, and I'm experiencing it inside of me. And that then returns me to a consciousness that is elevated, a consciousness that is elevating me to go beyond all the distractions that will pull me and make me upset. So I remain set in that stage of peace. And the stage of peace will create the states of awareness inside of me. And so this is the practice, this is the method that we use in connecting to the source. And I share that with you because I feel it may be useful to you today in your silence. And so now I invite you to go into the experience of the meditation, and we will be a little late, experiencing the source of light, God, and in this beautiful stage of peace, in the stability of light.
Om Shanti, and welcome to this beautiful meditation together on this cycle of time and gaining spiritual stability as the world around us changes, as consciousness changes. We fill ourselves with the light of the divine, and we are whole. Let's begin by completely relaxing the body from the crown of your head down to your shoulders, to your belly, to your hips, to your legs and your feet. And as you breathe on each exhale, feel yourself soften and relax more and more. As though there is this wave of peace washing over you. The peace of the divine. A peace that is so strong. It goes beyond all understanding. And this peace is so powerful and calls you inside of yourself. This peace guides you to becoming aware of the light within you. And you feel this light that you are as a radiant star of peace. Shining from behind your eyes. And you feel this light, this peaceful star to be yourself, the soul. Aware that your body is a costume, a vehicle for this earth, but that you, the star, the soul, are this point of light. Notice how peaceful your energy truly is. That you don't have to find peace outside of yourself, but that peace, this deep, unshakable peace, is your very nature. And so you soften into this peace. That is the energy of yourself, the soul. Flooded with peace. You naturally now start to feel yourself connect to the source, the divine God, the spiritual mother and father. And this being is the ocean of peace and light. And as you connect with this supreme being, like a supreme star, you, the star, connect with the supreme star. And you are showered with light. And an ever deeper and more profound peace starts washing over you in this connection. In this yoga, this divine union. And as the light continues to pour in your sweet, sweet, loving union with God, with the One, the Creator, as your mind is linking with that one's mind, you start to become aware of this vast, bigger picture of the cycle of life and the cycle of time. You start to see and perceive as if through God's eyes, and you become aware of the sacredness of the time we are in now, a confluence between ages, a time of darkness and forgetting, being transformed into a time of awakening and illumination. And we find ourselves in this confluence between the two. A time of enormous and incredible change, possibility, the joy of awakening, and also the growing pains of letting the old die and the new be born, on an individual level and on a collective level. And you feel the light and the love of God's mercy upon us in this potent time. And you feel His deep and profound love for you. And this light that's flowing into your being from that one continues to flow and hold you and nourish you and bless you and ground you. And you feel the light of the one flowing in from your crown all the way down to your feet and into the earth. And it's a powerful light, and at the same time, it's grounding you, it's rooting you, it's giving you this deep sense of safety and stability and security on the deepest level, the spiritual level. And we take a few moments together to bask in this healing light, the real preparation for the times to come of this great transformation. So you fill yourself with this light. And you are illumined with the sweetest peace, as if the one is telling you, I love you. You are mine. You belong to me. You are safe. I love you. You are mine. You belong to me. You are safe. You hear and feel these words from the One. And you soften, you relax, and even as you move into your life, you keep this deep sense of peace and stability and love as your foundation, so that you are able to be in this world but not of it, and be a great leader in these times of transformation. Oceans of love, oceans of peace. Thank you for your divine presence. Om Shanti.